Welcome. I'm going to make sure that we have everybody able to hang out with us and chat and be interactive for this session today. We're going to cover how models make your brilliance more tangible, and therefore, it's easier for people to understand exactly what you do. And when they understand exactly what you can do for them and how you do it, right? Then it's much easier for them to say yes. All right. So before I get into exactly how we're going to support you in creating your own model, I just want to make sure that it's really clear the point of why I would want you to have a model, why I would want you to have a visual framework. And there's some story behind that. Okay. There's some story for me personally in my own business structure, because my business coaches gave me the model that helped me get my first offer to a million in just under 3 years, when most of them took 7, 8, 9 to hit those numbers. Okay. So there is something about taking a process that already exists and using that process to get the results that you want. Okay. So I'm going to show you how to do that for your business. But I want to be perfectly clear that, like, this is how I did it for mine. I didn't decide I wanted to make the jump from, I guess you kind of need to know if you don't already know. I'm Joy. I'm the Heal at Scale. I'm the CEO here at Heal at Scale. And I went from serving, let's call them like health professionals in like the celebrity bubble. I'm talking about your Amy Myers, your JJ Virgins, your Sarah Gottfried, your Chris Kresser, your Metagenics, those kind of brands, right? So I was serving people one-on-one, probably just like you, right? You're probably seeing your patients or your coaching clients, and you're probably doing that one-on-one, or maybe you at least got started that way. And then at some point you see a pattern in what you're doing, and you decide you're going to make the jump from just interacting and helping one person, one client at a time. And you actually want to be able to give that same genius, that same process, that same protocol. And you want to be able to download that to more people and in a more efficient format, in a way that creates community because they're doing it together, and also leverages your time, right? Because instead of spending 1 hour with one client, you can spend that 1 hour leading 20 or 50 or 100 or 1,000 people in your own private groups. Okay. We call that process protocol to program, turning your protocol into a program that helps you lead groups of people to the same outcomes that you get your private clients. Okay. So I personally was in that boat, not as a practitioner, but it's the same concept. Okay. You're helping your clients one-on-one, and you would like to do that for a huge community of people. For me, that happened because I was adding zeros to all these people in the celebrity bubble, and then my own practitioner was struggling to keep her business afloat. And when I found that out, that's when I realized, oh my God, like, this is not okay. Like the hometown health heroes out there need to understand the same strategies that I'm using with my private clients, because it can make them just as much money if they knew it. If someone gave them a clear model, a visual framework, a process, a protocol, whatever you want to call it. You can call it anything. I have to keep my phone on, you guys. There's a family medical emergency we're all juggling. So if you hear any pinging or ringing, I'm so sorry. But I've got to keep that on for my own sanity's sake, so my heart doesn't melt as we're dealing with all of this. Okay. So that giving a clear framework for how you're going to get people results, that is essential. It's essential for your marketing. It's essential for your sales process. And it's really essential for you when you try to cross that bridge between one-on-one and one-to-many. And by one-to-many, I just mean groups, leading groups of people through this to get the same outcomes that you get for your one-on-one clients. Okay. So you're going to hear me use a few words interchangeably today: model, framework, like visual guide, doesn't matter. All of it is the same thing. Okay. What we have to do is we have to take your brilliance. Okay. I had to do this with mine. You'll have to do this with yours. We need to take it and make something very complicated. Like, marketing is very complicated. There's a lot of pieces. There's a lot of moving parts. Healing the human body, very complicated. There's a lot of different parts, right? And so sometimes when we go to market our services or connect with people and explain exactly what it is that we do, a model, a visual framework can help people see, oh, okay, she's getting these outcomes and she does it using this process. And I can see where I don't have the steps in that process. And whenever people see a gap between what they have and what they need to have in order to get the results that they want, that makes the sales conversation a lot simpler. Okay. So, in order to show you how this works, I'm going to reveal a few of my models so you can kind of wrap your head around it and see it. But I want to let you know that this concept of like, let's just look at what already works and then let's go ahead and reproduce a model that has worked for somebody else in order to get the results that we want. Like even just in life that works, right? So I want you to open your head. If the concept of creating your own model intimidates you, I want you to dial that back, like kind of take the 30,000 foot view. And I just want you to realize that what I'm asking you to do is follow a process that already works. Okay. And then so that this becomes sort of like an infinity loop upon itself, you are going to turn around and ask your audience to follow a process that already works. Okay. So this process works to grow your business. And this process works to grow your business because it shows people how your business works. How do you get them? Like what results do you get them? And how do you get them? Okay. So my son is 16. He'll be 17 in December. And he's a brilliant kid, high EQ, and he wanted to graduate high school early. Okay. And so in supporting him in that, I didn't try to wing it. He didn't try to wing it. We went and we found a process for kids who want to graduate early to test out and get their diploma early. We didn't like pull it out of thin air. We looked for a process. We found one online. We enrolled him in that process. He went through the process. He graduated like a week ago last Monday. Okay. So he's gaining 2 extra years to dive right into what he wants to pursue rather than following a general high school education. Right. Well, I mean, technically he got his general high school education. He just fast forwarded and got it faster. And he was able to do that in a very short period of time between he made that decision and when he got his diploma early. He couldn't have done that without a process, without standing on the shoulders of people who had done that before, right? And then he studies their process, repeats what they did, and he got the result that he wanted, okay? We all need to be able to show our audience how they can get that, like, hey, if these are the outcomes that you want, I have a process that can get you here. Here's how it works, okay? I want you to see it. I want you to open your mind. I want you to have this in your wheelhouse so you make more money. Okay. So let's go ahead and get into it. I'm going to shift to my iPad because I want to make sure that we can draw some things out and because I want to show you some of my models. Okay. I'm going to show you my symptoms plus science equals sales model. That's the model that my brand new book that's coming out, it'll be published on Thursday. So I'll send you guys a link if you're on my email list. If you're not, then you can DM me on Instagram if you want to get your hands on an early copy of that. I'm going to put my Instagram on here now. There we go. Actually, let me put this on here for you. DM me. Okay. Get cash pay clients. There we go. All right. DM me, get cash pay clients if you want early access to that book. Let me put this on screen for you so you can see it. That's my Instagram. Easy way to get a hold of me. I reply. Just let me know. And that book is based on this model. So I had to simplify the process. It's the process of lab test funnel. So if you guys know that I like you to position your labs right up front in your marketing and not, behind the paywall of marketing enrollment and then starting to work with you, I like you to actually put them right up front. There's a process for that, and in order to explain that process well, I needed to create a visual model to explain it to my audience, to turn it into a book. So I'm going to show you that model because that model not only worked stellar for me at helping practitioners see. I did a whole summit around that one model, and it literally helped. There were 1,700 practitioners involved in that, 2,200 hours of content consumed by them, and a massive wave of positive feedback from all of them that put that into play. And we're starting to make money during their marketing from their upfront lab tests and then converting better clients. that is a complicated process to try to explain it in, 1 or 2 minutes. I needed a visual model in order to do that. And then I can go deeper with that model when I teach it. Okay. So, and then I turned that whole process into a book, and you can too. Okay. So, what you will build with your model today, you can turn it into a group program. You can turn it into your primary sales tool, and you can turn it into your first book. Okay. So, I literally have people who turned their model into their client acquisition book. Okay. And so far, each one of them who has followed my process to do that is #1 on Amazon in their book category. So this works. Okay. So I want you to buckle up and get into this with me. Before we get started, I'll leave this up here for a second. I want to know, what is the primary objective that you help your audience do? Like, what is the main thing? So for me, I help my audience heal at scale, right? I help my audience heal at scale. So anybody who has a protocol, a process, a methodology, and they know how to heal someone's problem, I can help them do that at scale, right? How do I do that? Well, obviously, I have to help them grow an engaged audience, and then I have to help them grow an engaged audience and then turn that attention into paying clients, right? Because if I don't, then they're only going to be, popular on social media or whatever, but they're not going to be profitable. And obviously, I want you guys to be profitable. Okay. And then I have to help them put systems in place in order to protect their time and sanity, right? They can't do that alone without systems in place so that they can, leverage their expertise and actually heal at scale. So those are the 3 things that I have to help people do in order to get that result. And if there's people who want that result, I have to be able to show them exactly how I do it. Okay. So I'm going to show you a few of my models because I want to make sure that you kind of open your mind up to, how does this look? What is she talking about? Is she talking about, a supermodel like you see in Victoria's Secret or something? No, we're not talking about that. We're talking about a visual framework. Okay. So we're going to start by showing you a few of mine, and then I'm going to walk you through the process of creating one for yourself. Okay. I'm going to pre-warn you that obviously anything that boils your amazing brilliance. Okay. Let's face it. You guys have years of education under your belt. You have years of experience under your belt. You've probably refined your protocol over the time that you've been using it. And taking something that juicy, that magical, that impactful in the world and synthesizing it down to something uber simple and clear, it's not an easy process, right? As that French philosopher said, I would have written you a shorter letter if I had more time, right? The more we need to concentrate things down to their essence and their like most simplistic form, that can take some deep thinking. So I don't want you to put pressure on yourself to finish it today, okay? As a matter of fact, I have an invitation for you to use a bot. It's like an AI powered bot that can help you answer a series of questions and crank out your model just by answering all the questions that we've piled into this bot that can kind of pull it out of you. So you don't have to, noodle on it or stare at a blank piece of paper. Okay. And I'm going to give you a coupon code to use that entire process to create your own model and then turn your model into your scalable online program. Okay. And plus it has all kind of other fun things that you get to do in there. I'll give you a peek at it, but I'm going to give you the opportunity to use that AI bot to come up with your own model and then turn that model into your own complete curriculum for your program. So in order to jump the fence between one-to-one and one-to-many, you really do need to go through a process that we call protocol to program. And I'm going to give you access to the new version of protocol to program AI fast track. Our entire community did it in just 3 days, and we had lots of sort of social breakouts. So I'm a firm believer that you could like set aside yourself 2 days and come up with a rock star model, turn it into your curriculum, and create the marketing plan, as well as an awesome little customer service bot that would answer questions 24/7 in your group program. And the reason I throw that in there is because I don't want you to be intimidated thinking, well, Joy, if I'm this busy handling 20, 30 patients a week or clients a week, what's going to happen if I have 50 or 100 or 300 or 500 people in a group? What's going to happen to me? Am I going to lose my mind? No, you're not going to lose your mind, okay? Because we're going to be able to help you create, we call it a knowledge clone. And this knowledge clone, imagine it like a chat GPT that can't say anything you don't let it say, okay? In other words, it's just going to be trained on all of the things in your protocol, in your program, and it cannot extend beyond that. And therefore, it cannot hallucinate, okay? Which is awesome. So I'm going to give you 50% access to that just for being here with me on this interactive workshop today. And we're going to dive in and show you some models, and you're going to do your best to get this done. You'll see what I mean, that it requires some deep thinking and some soulful kind of tapping into what you want to be in the world, especially in the online space. How do you want to show up in the online space? Okay. So that's the setup for what we're doing. I'm going to switch gears over to my iPad because I need you guys to be able to draw this out. I see Maverick is congratulating Lisa. Yeah, no small feat to grant yourself 2 extra years in your life to start doing what you really want to do instead of what the local San Diego City School District thinks he ought to do. Of course, there is a lot to be said for, the high school setting, of course, if you're into it. He was just one of those who wasn't really suited for that environment. All right, here we go. Let me make sure you guys can see this. I'm going to go full screen so that it's just easier for you guys. And I will move this out of the way. I'll put this screen back up later so you can see it if you need to connect with me on Instagram. But let's go ahead and see if we go full screen. And then can you guys give me confirmation in the chat that you can see this the right way? It looks right to me, but sometimes it's flipped and it's backwards for you guys and you can't read it. Okay, so I'm going to assume you can read this. It should say protocol to program AI fast track. You should be able to read that. Okay. This is my process for helping you to leverage your expertise to make more money and to get better outcomes. Okay. And part of that process, the very first part of that process, is being able to essentially boil down what you do. Okay. And that's basically, if you think about it clearly, oh, thank you. Redeeming wellness. Oh my God, is that Leslie? I miss you, girl. How are you? So good to have you here. Okay. So that's basically boiling down what you do, which you could call, like, medically, you might call that like the outcomes. Okay. What are the outcomes that you're most focused on helping people get? And spoiler alert, I'm going to want you to be able to explain those outcomes in a very non-diagnostic, non-clinical way. Okay. So you need to be able to explain what you do in a non-clinical, non-medical, no jargon kind of way. Okay. You need to be able to state what you do and how you do it. Okay. And that you can think of as your protocol or your process or your method, however you want to call it. Okay. But it is as simple as that. Okay. But because you guys solve things in the health arena, I want to give you a very, a very deep well that you will have the freedom to go as deep as you want to go, because this can sound like, well, Joy, if I did that, it would be very shallow. It would be very not meaningful. I couldn't really articulate that much if all I did was walk up and say, oh, this is what I do and this is how I do it. And that is valid, okay? But if you think about our current culture and how we have the attention span of a gnat at best when we're interacting online, can you see how it makes sense for us to need to boil that down to its most simplest form so that we can quickly articulate it just to stop the scroll, right? Just to get their attention and kind of hook their attention for a minute and then pull them into our world where we can go down a very deep well on the obviously very complicated topics of what is happening in the human body, how systems interplay. It's not easy. It's not simple. Okay. So I want to acknowledge right now that I am oversimplifying the complicated. Okay. And I'm only doing that in service of you being able to clearly articulate what you do, without a lot of words. Okay. So I want you to see a few of these in play. Okay. I consider this process the fastest track to having clear messaging. Very crystal clear messaging. Okay. And remember how I told you how we built a little AI bot that can help you do that? That is the content construct architect. Okay. When you use this process, it's going to ask you a series of questions about who you want to serve, why you're motivated to serve them, what are the biggest pain in the butt things that they hate more than anything and they would be willing to pay to get over. You're going to answer questions. I would say you're going to get a cup of tea and you're going to carve out 20, maybe 30 minutes, an hour total if you're going to want to do the drawing. And I would say you just block that time and you interact with that bot so it can allow you to pull these questions out of you one at a time, layer over layer, so you don't have to wrap your brain around it. Okay. All right. This is a very generic, general way to look at how you create a model. Okay. Now, you can have a model that looks like a pyramid or a garden or a sailboat or a windmill or a choo-choo train. It doesn't matter to me what it looks like. But my coach, Simon Bowen, tells me when you draw people in. And he's the person who this completely changed my business model, my selling. It changed everything for me. Okay. Literally went from struggling to sell my services and what I do for people to it being a no-brainer. Like my enrollment rates when I were talking to people, my enrollment rates on like master classes or webinars or whatever the cool word for them is nowadays. Okay. Went from like terrible to off the charts, right? So I'm talking like, under 20% to over 70%, which for me was like, that's huge. Okay. And it's like you guys in the health, like small hinges swing big doors, right? If we can get someone's gut right, then that's going to swing the door to their gut being better, their metabolics being better. So for me, a model was a small hinge that was able to swing open better content strategy for social media, better sales process, better delivery on what I provide for the people that I serve. Okay. So here's how I want you to think about it. And I'm going to go ahead and color code these so you start to think about them differently. I want you to think about your audience and I want you to think, what is the number one pain in the butt thing that they hate? And then I want you to state the opposite as a win. Okay. So I'll show you this in my model. Okay. So I want you to pick a win that would make them thrilled. And the way to come up with the wins is to think, okay, well, what's the number one thing, number two thing, and number three thing that they hate the most? Okay. Well, the opposite of that is going to be a win for them. Okay. So whatever they hate the most, if we go ahead and flip the script on them and we say, oh, we could get you the opposite of that. Okay. So if constipation was their number one problem, healthy daily bowel movements would be a win for them, right? If they were scared to eat because they didn't know what was going to cause crazy digestive drama, well, then having the confidence to eat foods that are safe for their body would be a win for them, right? Okay. And so on and so forth. Okay. If they were, struggling with weight gain or struggling to hit their ideal weight, whether it was because their digestive drama was so bad that they had gotten emaciated or their digestive drama was so bad that they were stacking on pounds and bloated all the time, it doesn't really matter. You just want to give them the opposite. Okay. So you want to think 1, 2, and 3. Okay. So you're going to go and we'll number them like that. So we're going to go not 1 win. Okay. 2 wins and 3 wins. I want you to try to think now of 3 wins. Again, you're going to see models of mine that will help you. And you're going to see models that don't look like this. I'll show you some models that look different. Okay. So I want you to think of those 3 wins. And if they had those 3 wins that we all know you're skilled enough to get them, again, assuming they're compliant and they're following your protocol, well, then what is the super cool aspirational possibility that becomes possible for them? That's what we call the big why. You could call it the aspiration, you could call it the transformation. It doesn't really matter to me. Okay. But if they got 1, 2, and 3 outcomes with you, there is a new possibility in their life that didn't exist before that. Okay. And that's what I want you to think through. Okay. Now, once we clarify for people, hey, when we clarify for people, the reason that we have to start with these wins is because the only thing that's going to stop the scroll is things that are on their mind. Okay. So if we went straight to, oh, let's go ahead and explain what we do. Okay. Let me shift this. I'll do a different color here. So if we started rambling on about what we do, they have no connection to the fact that what we do gets them the outcomes that they want. So that's why I always have my students start their content with, well, what's the win, right? So even this session today, we started the conversation with, hey, I want you to have a model so you make more money. Okay. I bet making more money would be really cool for you, right? So we start the conversation with something that is a win for them, or you can always flip the script and do the opposite, and we can talk about a pain or a problem that they have, okay? So we're always either doing moving towards is marketing that talks about what they do want, and moving away marketing is talking about things that they hate so much they would do anything to escape it. Okay, so if you ever hear a marketer talking about moving towards marketing or moving away marketing, that's what they're talking about. And it doesn't matter. You'll stop the scroll and get their attention, whether they're like, "Ooh, I want that thing," right? Or whether they're like, "Oh, I have that terrible thing and I want to figure out how to stop it." It works both ways. It works, okay? Statistically, you want to make sure you are looping in some moving away, like things, oh, I hate that thing. I want to move away from it. You want to lean heavily into that. I would say 60-40, 70-30, like using the things that they want to avoid, just to tap into the fact that the brain has a negativity bias, right? It's more concerned with protecting us from things that, are damaging to us than it is about seeking pleasure. Okay. Now, obviously, we all avoid pain and we all seek pleasure. But because of the negativity bias, it's good to include in your marketing the things that they want to move away from. That's why I said when you're listing your wins, you want to do them in the positive. But when you're talking about them in your content, you can either describe the win that's moving towards marketing, or you can describe the pain point that is the opposite of that win, and that would be moving away from marketing. Okay. Now, then once we've stopped the scroll by either luring them in with the wins that they want or the pains that they're like, man, I would do anything to escape this. Then and only then are they going to be curious about what we need to do together in order to get that result. Okay. So the what's in our protocol, the what we have to do together, all of that, they don't care about that until they know that it gets them the result that they want. Now their interest has been piqued. Okay. Now, to give you plenty of room to go down deep rabbit holes about what you have to do together, well, then I want you to have different ways of talking about that. So I have 3 on the outside of this mind model. Some people have 2. Some people might have 4. I like to keep everything to 3s because it's clean and tidy and easy. It's the reason that our phone numbers are 3 numbers, 4 numbers, our social security number, 3 numbers, 2 numbers, 3 numbers. Those numbers are built with dashes in between like that on purpose, because there's been so much research done that says the brain kind of gets fried at 4 or above, right? So we might as well keep the numbers to, well, okay, let's just do chunks of 3. So that's why I do it, but you could easily have less on here, okay? These outside pieces here are your opportunity to go deeper. Oh, what's the work we have to do together? Oh, let me show you the way. Let me show you the way. Let me show you the way. It lets you break down a complicated process into simpler steps that people will be able to implement. This part on the outside here, all the way that we do it, all of these steps become critical for you because that is your protocol, right? That is the process by which you get started. Can you see it? So maybe, the first way might be testing, right? So we're going to start with some comprehensive testing, right? And then we're going to compare that to how your current system or symptoms, like what are your current symptoms, and let's see where those two interact, right? And then we're going to take precautionary measures, and maybe you might start, this might be gut, this whole health area might be gut, this might be like testing, and this might be, gut, and this might be hormones or metabolics or what, I don't know what you teach. So it's really hard to get in the weeds about this, you guys. So I'm going to show you some examples now. I also am going to show you examples from my business, because if I show you other practitioners' models, y'all will just rip each other off. And then this will not be as poignant. It won't be as effective in the space. I personally believe that coming up with I call it a content construct, because it's what is all the content that you're going to put in on the world? What's the construct that we're creating to make a transformation for people? So I call it a content construct. Okay. So I believe this is the crown jewel of nearly every single thing that I brought to market. Okay. So I'm going to start with this model because this is the overall model for how I help members of my mastermind. It's really the overall model for everything that Heal at Scale is all about. Okay. And so if I was to talk about this with a client, let's say that I was on a, like a game plan session, like a sales call or something, then I would say, hey, you know what? I have found that the first thing that I need to do to make my clients really successful is I have to amplify their impact. And that just means I have to grow them a really engaged audience that know, like, and trust them. Okay. That we have to have that in order to turn that attention from that audience into predictable profits. Okay. And once we can amplify your impact and turn the attention of that engaged audience into reliably steady, predictable profits, well, then we need to put systems in place that increase your autonomy. They give you more freedom. You can do it from anywhere you want, anytime. As long as you show up, you've got internet, you can do it. Okay. So we have to have systems in place that protect your time. And when I do that, that is when I'm able to help my clients heal at scale. Right? That is the transformation that becomes possible when I create those 3 wins for my clients. Okay. If you have questions about this, post them in the chat. And as I go through the other models, I'll pause and I'll explain it in more detail. Dan Wasserman is saying this sounds like an afternoon date with ChatGPT. That is so true, Dan. That's why I created a bot that can help you go through this. Okay. The reason I created it as a bot is I didn't want you to experience any random, hallucinations or exaggerations. Or do any of you ever get the experience when you're working with ChatGPT or GenSpark or Manus or any of them? If I ask it for a correction or a change, it kind of gets a little bit like, ass kissing kind of is like, oh yeah, you're so right. And it will just go along with you. And what I want it to do is I want it to stay on the rails of a series of questioning that has worked for me to create these kind of models for practitioners in the online space for over a decade now. All right. So now, if I am talking with an audience about this and I ask them, okay, do you want that? Do you want the bigger engaged audience, predictable profits, and systems that set you free so that you can heal at scale? And they're like, well, yeah, but I've tried everything, Joy, and nothing works. How are we going to do that? Then I let them know, all right, if I was to boil it down to the simplest 3 steps, it is aware, convert, and elevate. Okay. And then you can see I have these areas over here to explain to them in more detail exactly what I mean. Okay. So I would say to them, all right, when you're growing awareness for what you do, for your services, the very first thing that you have to do is you have to complete your foundational marketing. What is foundational marketing? It's making sure that you're clear on who you serve. You articulate exactly what you can do with them in a very clear way. And you know exactly what your offer ladder is. And your offer ladder is simply like your customer journey. Tiffany's saying, yeah, ChatGPT must kiss her booty too, right? It's so silly how it does that. It makes me scared what the future of the world is. If it's going to be taken over by AI, is it just going to be blowing smoke all the time? So that's the first piece. You have to do your foundational marketing. Okay. Now, the way that I do this is I ask a series of questions to my prospects that let them know, like, hey, do you have a clearly defined avatar? Have you mapped out your offer ladder? Do you have a concise way? Do you have a model like this to show people what you do and how you do it? So it's easy for them to say yes. And most of my prospects are like, no, nobody's ever made me sit my butt down and map out my customer journey, my offer ladder. So I actually understand exactly how I'm moving people from my free content to my high-end offers. Okay. So if they don't have that, how are they going to go out in business and succeed? They're just throwing spaghetti at the wall. Okay. So if I ask them if they have that, and I typically do it as like a red, yellow, green assessment, like red, they don't have this under control. Yellow, well, they've tried, but they haven't had success with it. And green, oh, it's perfect. I've already done that. I'm totally nailed that. I don't need help with that. That's how I do it. Okay. So we basically can go deeper down the rabbit hole of saying, hey, there's 3 steps. And then we can ask some questions like, hey, do you have your foundational marketing handled? Hey, have you built a web of influence? Have you selected a platform that you're going to show up big and consistently, and you have that cadence, and you have created an online web of influence to pull people from the web into your business and into working with you? And then once you've built that web, do you have ways to bring more traffic to it? Yes or no? There's only 3 forms of traffic, you guys: organic, paid, and partners. Have you nailed all 3 of those forms of traffic? And if they've nailed them all, they would be green, et cetera, right? So I can, these areas on the outside right here, they allow me to have a deeper conversation with my audience about how I do what I do. Now, how you can you see how this would be an effective sales tool? And it's also an effective content strategy, okay? Because if I want to wake up and, do a YouTube live or a Instagram or anything, I can simply look at this model and I go, oh, what's really relevant for my audience right now? What's really relevant for my audience right now? What has my mastermind been struggling with? What are people DMing me that they're having problems with? And I could be like, oh, you know what is really problematic for people right now? They are growing their list. Cultivate relationships is when you move everybody from the online platform onto your list, and then you automate nurture sequences, move them into sales. What's really happening right now is there's this problem that when people are moving people from social to their CRM, that's where we get their name, email, phone number, right? Unfortunately, they're attracting a bunch of freebie seekers. Okay. And instead of growing a list and an audience of buyers, they're just getting a bunch of tire kickers. And so I want to talk to them. I can show up and I can help. I can tell them how to stop getting an audience of freebie seekers and start getting an audience of buyers. I have a very clear process for that. And so it's like I consider it like a little spin the wheel of fun. Like, what am I going to talk about today? And I could spin this wheel or throw a dart or however you want to do it. And I could be like, okay, I'm going to talk about profit progression today. When we get that initial sale, how do we add more sales? So it also becomes a clear way for me to distribute content. Okay. The other thing is when I bring people into my world, can you guess which order? So let me take all this stuff off of here. Can you guess which order I get them started when they onboard with me? Well, I start right here and I just go around. I make sure that they are clear on who they are. And then I help them grow a web of influence. And then I help them set up strategic, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, all around until they graduate out. Does that make sense? So it's also a curriculum development piece for me. It organizes what I need to teach. Okay. Now, I hope you're starting to kind of pick up what I'm putting down. You guys can let me know in chat if you're seeing how instead of just showing up and randomly talking about stuff, you get in the habit of, okay, talk about something that they want or they want to avoid. And then that'll get their attention, and then show them that you have a system for getting those results, and dive into any one of the areas on your model and have a conversation with them to bring them in. Okay. If you have questions about this, throw them in the chat and we'll make sure to get them handled for you. Okay. All right. Oh, I just realized I forgot to press live in my Facebook group. I'll just have to put the video in for them later. Okay. Okay. So here's one for Abundance Accelerator. Okay. I jump out of bed every day to serve the people in my mastermind. It's my absolute favorite community. I love those people. Their wins are my wins. Okay. So we just had a brand new member named Cami. She took one piece of the model that we teach in her enrollment and she added 50K immediately. Okay. Talk about a huge win. Like, that is a community that dives in, they implement what we teach them. And when they implement and they implement fast, they get results fast. Okay. So that's my favorite group of humans to serve because I literally feel like their wins are my wins. Okay. But there are people who are attracted to the content that I teach and they're not quite ready for that. Maybe they just graduated from, I don't know, somewhere cool like FDN or IIN or School of Applied Functional Medicine, all these great academies out there churning out amazing people who are helping people with their health. Okay. And when they're first getting started, they kind of need the basics. All right. They kind of need the very, very basics. So I took some processes that, truth be told, are really a deeper dive from this, right? It's a little bit, I would say it's probably like the first step of each of these models, right? And I turned it into a simplified 12-week course for people who were just getting started in the online space. Okay. And so when I talk to that audience, when I go, if I'm speaking on something for FDN or School of Applied Functional Medicine or something like that, then I would say, hey, you know what we need to do? I bet you're really looking for steady lead flow. And I bet you're looking for clients ready to buy from you. And I bet you'd like a really engaged audience, right? So that you can create abundance. Okay. This is another example of how I can walk people through a complicated process of getting started in the online space. And it's really simple, right? So all they're going to do is they're going to build their book a call funnel. They're going to build a way to bring people onto their list. And then they're going to set up an enduring traffic strategy, something that keeps bringing their people to their world. Okay. That's a different model. Same concept. Okay. Simpler, more broken down. Because I don't want you to think that they all have to be a circle, circle, circle Venn diagram, I want to show you that I have one that I use for teaching social media strategy, right? Because medical professionals have a higher bar for integrity and high value content and building a know, like, and trust factor. Like, we have to work a little bit harder. So I have a process for medical professionals to rock it on social, any social platform they want. And it's the same. You can kind of see elements of it here, but the 3 wins are like, okay, you need to build a social media following. Okay. And in order to do that, you have to start by building recognition, turn that into trust, and then turn that into sales, right? That's the social piece of the puzzle. And then once you've got that completed, okay, and then you can see I have this allows me to go deeper into the content. Okay, well, they have to cultivate a personal brand, show them how to do that. They have to use the client attraction trifecta, a 3-part way of rotating through content in order to pull people into their world. And then they have to know how to turn that engagement into actual money. And we call that revenue through engagement. Okay, so you can see this is also the course curriculum. Okay. And then that's only one side of the line. Just envision there's a line here. Okay. That's the first piece that they have to do. That's the first piece. Once they do that, then they are set up to take advantage of stages, right? And stages are other people's social that has already been built up, whether that's on a podcast or a big following on a specific platform. And in order to do that, that's going to help them grow respect faster, right? Earn respect because they're sort of how do you call it? Like, people big them up. When you come on someone else's podcast or do a collab with someone, they're going to edify you, right? So that's going to get you respect in a faster, more powerful way. And you're also going to get growth from their audience, right? Because you go on someone else's audience and then you might invite them to get a free asset or DM you or whatever. And now those people are now moving into your world. Okay. So you get growth. And then as you work with more and more partners, you end up having this super cool reciprocity where you promote each other's audience offers and grow each other's list. Okay. And then there's an outline of content for teaching that. Okay. So it doesn't have to look any particular way. I have a model for showing people how to build their website. By the way, website is not your first move. Okay. You are way better going straight to building landing pages that make money than you are spending tons of time on your website. That is a stage 2. Okay. You have to have offers and money coming in. Okay. Here's the model. I'm going to move this out of the way so you can see it. Okay. Here's the model for lab test funnel. Okay. And lab test funnel is simply the process of pulling labs, like I was mentioning before, from the back end of the funnel to the front end. Okay. We talk about one of their pains. Okay. And then we invite them to get access to the lab. And then people who have their lab results are much easier to enroll in working with us because their own body is showing them exactly where the problems are that need to be solved. Okay. So this is the model that I built to teach the lab test funnel process. And that symptoms plus science framework, this framework right here. So the symptoms plus science equals risk. So I say, in order to get monetizable attention. That's the first thing that the people who like lab test funnel want. They want monetizable attention on social media. They don't want more freebie seekers. They don't want tire kickers. They actually want attention in the online space that is easily monetizable. Okay. If you're having trouble with that, like, drop it in the chat. Let me know. I'll put a QR code where you can get access to lab test funnel. Okay. They want monetizable attention. And then I want them to sell lab tests right up front. Like I want them to have upfront lab sales, because if they do that, then they'll keep doing the marketing that sustains the monetizable attention, because this upfront lab sale is very motivating for them to do their marketing. Okay. They're getting sales from people who aren't even buying their packages or programs. Right. And then once those people have those lab tests, it's much easier for you to turn those people into cash pay clients, because you have hopefully you have your model in place when you're on that call, but you also have their data, right? And so I teach that process. Yes. Okay. You need to, understand who's suffering, talk to them in the same way they complain, show them which system needs attention. This is another system, right? Can you see how it goes step by step? And I turned that into my new book, publishes on Thursday. Okay. So again, if you want early access to that book, make sure that you DM me and I'll make sure that you get the link to get early access. Okay. I'm doing some gifts to the first 100 people who buy it and review it, are getting access to this awesome, super cool member portal that helps them implement everything that I teach in the book. So you'll definitely want to do that if you're interested in monetizing attention, selling upfront labs before people are even clients, and then turning more people into cash pay clients. That would be good for you. All right. Okay. So that model was turned into a book. Okay. The book to buyer blueprint is a process that I teach practitioners to turn their protocol into a best-selling client acquisition book. Okay. We have members who have published from our book to buyer event who've already published and they're number one in their category, and they're already landing clients from their book. Now, doing that, turning their protocol into a book, well, that took a process. So what do you think I did? I simplified it down to its core components. Okay, we need to establish credibility. I'll do this in white because it'll be easier to see. We have to help them establish credibility. Okay, and then we have to inspire their readers to actually implement. And then we have to actually create profitable sales from that book. Okay, so the book is not their life story, you guys. The book is designed to be a client acquisition tool that does all those things. It gets them more credibility, more speaking gigs, more invitations to be on podcasts and collabs, that kind of thing. Okay, it inspires their readers to implement. So now they're getting testimonials and reviews, right? And they actually need to turn those readers into buyers of other products that they have. So there's a profit model built in for their business. Okay, so instead of winging it and teaching them that in some disorganized way, I just got clear on, okay, what do those authors want? A, B, and C, or 1, 2, and 3. How am I going to get them there? I have to make sure they're clear on their strategic concept, that they have high converting content, and then that they know how to do smart self-publishing. Bam. Okay. We do that. We're doing that in February in Vegas. If you're interested in that, make sure that you DM me. I'll put the DM up again in just a minute. Okay. So I want you to do this. Okay. Now in our community, we use this handout. This is the offer articulation handout, but you don't even need this. I'm going to walk you through it. So I've taken this handout and put it on screen big so that you can start to think through this yourself. And then if you want to use the in-depth bot that's going to pull this out of you, obviously it'll help you think through it in a much deeper and more comprehensive manner. But I want to make this really simple so you actually can get traction on this today. Because if you start articulating this to your audience, and even if you did something like change your Instagram bio, like that, it would be a lot more clear if your Instagram bio said, hey, I help these people do A, B, and C. Like click the link below to explore my process, right? And then there's one link and it takes them to talk to you. And when they talk to you, can walk them through your model. If people know exactly what you do, they know whether or not they should follow you, engage in your content, be consuming everything that you put out. Okay. So what you want to do is go ahead and clarify first who you help. Okay. You might call that your ideal client. You might call it your avatar. You might call it your ideal client avatar. But I simply want you to state, who do you help? Okay. So right here, I want you to state who. Okay. I want you to state who you help. I have found that if I help somebody who, that might be like women ready to have child in the next 12 months. That might be your avatar. Okay. Or, like women ready to be moms in the next year, however you would articulate that. That might be the particular audience that you serve. Okay. And then what would you need to help them do? What are the measurable objectives that your audience needs to do? Okay. You've seen multiple examples for me, right? So if we're talking about my practitioners who are ready to write a client attraction book, which is really smart right now, this is another way to weed out the freebie seekers, right? Like if they buy your book, you're going to develop your know, like, trust factor like that. And the person spent what, $14.99 on the book? Like that's an easy sale, right? So the authors that want this from me, I know exactly what they want. They want to establish credibility. They want to inspire people to implement, and they want to profit from writing this book. So for me, if this was mine, but I want you to do this, okay? So you guys are welcome to share them in the chat as we go through this, and then we can look at one and give feedback if we have time, okay? So for me, my who would be like, okay, like practitioners, or for me, it's like I usually say health entrepreneurs. So I would say health entrepreneurs. I won't even make you write this, okay? But I'll just say it so you don't have to wait. I would say health entrepreneurs ready to write a client acquisition book. Okay. And so the first measurable objective that we would do, like you can see it right here on my model, is I have found that if I can help them create a book that establishes credibility. So right here, this is what you help them do. So I have measurable objective, but you want to think outcome. Okay. So for example, in that, if the who that I helped up here was women who want to be a mom in the next 12 months. Okay. What are the outcomes? The outcomes might be, okay, well, those people who are struggling with fertility may need to first have like a healthy cycle, right? They may need to have a healthy, normal cycle. Okay. And then they may need to optimize their fertility. Okay. And then they may need help with, I don't know what your protocol would be for this, but the first thing that comes to mind for me I would be like, okay, I need to get them having a healthy cycle. So that might be me taking them through detox and helping them do some hormone balancing so that their cycle becomes regular and predictive. Okay. Or maybe the detox is getting the healthy cycle, and then optimizing their fertility might be anything that I want to do to kind of ramp that up. And then it is supporting them in conception, right? So support conception. And then the support conception piece might be training them on everything from all the things that they could do to optimize that, from timing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So if I can help them have a healthy cycle, optimize their fertility, and support conception so that they can. And what does this audience want to do? Like grow their family. Okay. And then that gives me the opportunity to ask my audience, my clients, someone who's on a sales call with me, does that sound attractive to you, so-and-so? Yes or no? And if they say yes, then they say, okay, let me tell you exactly how I do that. And then you would need to articulate to them, what are the 3 areas of work that you need to do? And so that might be, in my case, like I was going, okay, we might need to detox and then optimize and then conceive. And that might be the big buckets of work that I break it down into. Okay. Now, obviously, then I would want to do the outside pieces of the model that let me go deeper down each one of these rabbit holes and say, hey, I break the detox phase up into A, B, and C. And I break the optimized phase down into 3 phases, 2 phases, however your protocol rolls out. We all have different protocols, so it's difficult to say. Okay. And so these 3 areas of work, let them know exactly what we do. And that's the best way to get started with it. So if you can just do this, okay? So I'll clear this out. I'll clear this off both pages, because I just will have you can write this down on a simple piece of paper. Okay. This doesn't take any fancy form. That's why I put it on here. Okay. Doesn't take any fancy form, but I want you to see it blank, just so you can, I think I can erase it this way, just so you can fill it in yourself. Okay. So I want everybody to be able to clearly articulate, who do I serve? That's your avatar. What are the 3 main objectives, outcomes, wins that you can help them achieve? Okay. And if they had those things, what becomes possible? That's the aspiration. Okay. So you've got objective 1, objective 2, objective 3, and then the aspiration that becomes possible. In my fertility example, it was like, so you can grow your family. Right. So the main win is that they grow their family. Do you think someone who is jealous when they see another woman push a baby carriage down and they're like, oh, why is everybody having babies but me? Do you think the idea of content that would help them grow their family is attractive to them and would stop them from scrolling for a second and listen to what you have to say? Probably, right? Because that's exactly what their, reticular cortex is looking out for, is like, how can I make this happen for myself, right? So clearly stating it that simply. Okay. And then, hey, there's 3 primary areas of work you have to do. And then you would list those, the first one, the second one, and third one. Today, I want to talk to you about one aspect of these 3 areas of work. And that is your content strategy. You can always say something about any one of the 3 areas of work that you have to do, and you would never, ever run out of content. Okay. All right. I want to make sure that you guys understand from there, that turns into your program outline. How is that possible? Because as soon as you simplify it down to the 3 phases of work, and then you have to answer to yourself, okay, well, what does each one of these phases of work what are those phases comprised of? What does it take for me to get people to that point, right? And maybe your first area of work is always assessment, right? Maybe that's testing and intake forms, and then doing an intersection, investigating the intersection of their symptoms and their lab results. Well, that's your first phase. Your first phase might be to assess, right? So I want you to be able to articulate that really clearly. When you think of, okay, if my assess phase is, or I have the testing that I love to order, I have the intake forms that I love for them to give me, and then I love to have everybody look at the intersection of those 2 things. Oh, okay, because they explain each other, right? Well, that's the first phase. And now you also know the 3 steps. The first 3 steps is ordering the testing, and then the assessments they need to do, and then helping people understand the intersection of their symptoms they're complaining about and the lab test results that they're seeing. And then you would move on to solving the problems that were revealed. Okay, so that might be phase 2 of your work. You want to articulate these things in a way that is uniquely you, okay? And then once you have that articulated, you simply unfold that model to become your curriculum outline for your group program, okay? If you have not made the leap from one to one to one to many, I highly recommend that you take notes for yourself. So the next 3 clients that you land, my tip for this is always the next 3 clients that you land, you should be charting for yourself. Oh, okay, I do this first, and then I do this second, and then I do this third. We like to think that there's this N of 1 and everybody is absolutely unique. But if we look at our process over the next 3 clients, you'll see there's repetition in what you do. That's why it's called a protocol, right? Because it has a very specific way that it unrolls, okay? Dan is asking, how important are the demographics when we describe who versus the symptoms? That's a great question, Dan, because it's very important, right? I want you to be very clear because the riches are in the niches, okay? There's also this concept that we talk about in marketing that if you're talking to everybody, nobody's listening to you, Dan. And the reason they're not listening is because they don't recognize you as an expert because you haven't dialed in. And let's stick with that fertility example. I don't know what you do, but in that fertility example, if I was doing content that just spoke to moms, wannabe moms, people who want to have their next child or their first child, if I'm dialing into that audience is like, she's talking directly to me. She understands my fears. So it's very, very important to get that who really, really clear. The other thing there, a hint for you, Dan, don't embarrass them, right? So if you were treating, men with erectile dysfunction, you would not say that because that they don't want to see that, like if someone's looking over their shoulder, they don't want anyone to see them stopping on content that says that, because then they're self-identifying as someone who says that. So you always want to phrase your avatar in a way, like once they're deep in your community, your programs, you can talk about them like, I help men with erectile dysfunction solve that problem. Okay. But in the beginning, you might say it in a way that would be socially acceptable. For example, men committed to lasting intimacy. Can you see how I'm still talking to men who have erectile dysfunction, but what is the positive thing about them? They're committed to finding a way to maintain their intimacy with their partner. That's not embarrassing, right? That's not embarrassing to them. It doesn't talk down to them. It doesn't judge them in any way. As a matter of fact, it's stated in a way that could kind of make their their ego feel really good, right? Okay, so that's super important. So once you have your model done, that empowers you to turn it into the program outline. And once you have your program outline, you can either launch your course in the uber simplest way, meaning like, hey, all right, I'm just going to get a whole bunch of people on a Zoom call. I'm not going to do anything fancy. Maybe I build some Google Slide and I store all of their homework in Google Drive. Easy peasy. That's the easiest way. Now, the strategic and more scalable way is to set it up on a CRM and then record those videos and do, some presentation decks in something as easy as Canva and do all the automated follow-up with those people again in your CRM. So that's just kind of one extra little tool that you need, right? But having a CRM, if you ask me, is the cost of doing business online if you're a health practitioner. So I personally am an advocate for doing it that way, okay? And then once you have that done, you need a marketing plan to get it out to the world in an effective way. And then you are off to the races. Okay. So I'm going to put a screen. I'm actually going to do this way. I have a code for you guys. And if you use this, if you scan this code, you're going to be able to get access to Protocol to Program AI Fast Track. Okay. Protocol to Program AI Fast Track is the AI powered way to go from one-to-one client work to one-to-many client work. This is having your live group programs. I typically like them to be live rolling evergreens. So you don't get stuck in a launch cycle. People can join whenever they find you. So it's your access to moving from one-to-one to many in the form of live rolling evergreen group programs or DIY self-study courses, right? It doesn't matter which ones you want to offer, but that is the fastest path to getting that done. We used to teach a process called Protocol to Program. I mean, we still teach it. We still have it. It's still part of the process, but it was a 7 and 8. I think we tried to do it in 6 weeks and people really, really struggled. So we extended it to 9 weeks. Okay. And there are people who got it done like during the process. And then there were people who struggled and did it really slowly and they didn't open for 6, 9 months. Some of them took a year to get it done. And as AI started emerging, Travis and I and the team here at Scale decided okay, how much of this that they struggle to think through, defining their avatar, creating a model, a framework that hyper simplifies the uber complicated process of healing the human body, right? How do we get them to articulate that in such a clear and concise way that people are leaping at the chance to work with them? And then once we do that, how do we help them turn that into a curriculum that consistently gets their community results and gets them better results than they typically see in their one-on-one clients, because their one-on-one clients are isolated. They're going through it alone. And the community gets through it better with more support, with more guidance, with more encouragement and empathy from each other. And the data is there, you guys. Just go on PubMed and do research. The difference in cancer survival, if you're in a group, 70% instead of 30% if you don't. Okay. The success rates on everything from smoking cessation to weight loss to depression, anxiety. There's so many awesome studies that show people get better results, better outcomes in a group, in a community. And when I dug into the research on that, because I was like, wow, this is crazy. I had no idea that the outcomes could be so much better in a group. When I dug into the research, psychologists were attributing it to the isolation factor of chronic illness. And let's face it, chronic conditions, which functional and precision medicine is so good at healing. If you have something chronically, if you've been dealing with something for a long time, do you really want to be that guy who's always bitching and moaning and complaining and whining? You kind of don't want to be that person for a while. So after a while, it's easy to see why some of your clients and your audience might kind of go inside and feel a little bit isolated in what they're experiencing. We see this all the time in the gut health programs, right? The people who are saying, man, my husband, my spouse can eat anything he wants and he never gets bloated and he never has problems. And me, I'm scared to death to eat out at a restaurant because I never know how my body's going to respond. Well, that is a very isolating experience. And when people are in groups, they can kind of commiserate, share tips, support each other, right? So anyways, we took that protocol to program process and we did an experiment, and we took our entire mastermind community and we invited our list too. So there's some people who were not in the mastermind, but they just paid to attend separately. It was a $1,500 3-day workshop to turn their protocol into an online program. And we had people who had never built their online program curriculum before, didn't have a model, didn't have anything. So we had some people who were brand newbies, and then we had some people who had already created one course and they were using the workshop to create their second or third course. And the people who had created their course with us the first time were kind of interrupting to let the rest of the people know who were new. Oh my God, you guys, like this took me so long. This took me weeks or months to get done. And I just finished it in 3 days with all of us all together. Okay. So we called this version the protocol to program AI fast track, because it literally is possible to get the entire process of creating your model, your visual framework, turning that visual framework into a comprehensive curriculum for your online program. And then as bonuses, we even have in the whole marketing plan and the way to get it launched. And then also we added the knowledge clone. And the knowledge clone is once you have that program ready, right? Once you have your videos, in your program so that you have contained your knowledge into this awesome little member portal for your people. Once you've done that, well, you can take all of those videos where you're explaining. Okay. So in Lab Test Funnel, for example, I have all the videos that explain like every single step of that funnel. So when I took my book, I took the transcripts of all those videos and I fed it into AI for part of our book process. You can take the transcripts of your video of people of you walking people through your protocol. And those transcripts can become your own. Think of it like a private, secret, like a walled off version of ChatGPT. Okay. So instead of you like giving people access to ChatGPT or telling them to go answer questions, like it's only you, it's only your voice, it's only your handouts, it's only your protocol summary that people can interact with, and they can't share it with anybody. It's trapped in your member portal. So it can act as a 24/7 reference point. So like a little customer service bot. So if people are thinking, man, I remember Dan Wasserman said something so cool and I can't remember which video it was in. And it can just ask, hey, I know Dan said this about how to resolve my gut problems or what I should do when I'm eating out, but I can't remember where it was. Can you help me? And it's gonna say, oh yeah, he said that in this session at this time, but let me just give you a summary. Would you like that as a handout so you can put it in your purse and take it with you to restaurants and know what to order? You know what I mean? Like it just prevents you from having to worry that, oh my gosh, when I wake up every morning, I'm going to be inundated with tons and tons of questions from people in my member portal. There's a bot for that, right? So that's a little bonus in there. If you're not tech savvy, if you don't love AI, of course, you do not have to do it. It's just a bonus. But if you're going to make the switch from one to one to one to many, I know that one of the big fears that comes up is, how am I going to handle all that customer service? Okay. And I don't want you to have to be panicking about. So that was our solution for that. We call it a knowledge clone. So when you see it inside the portal, you'll see there's an episode for knowledge clone. Okay. Again, that entire process was a $1,500 process that we took people through. If you scan that code, it's going to take you to the checkout page. Okay. When you are checking out, you need to put in the code fast track 50. So the word fast, no spaces, the word track, the number 50, no spaces, fast track 50. And when you put in that code, okay, it's going to give you 50% off the entire process of articulating what you do for who and turning that into a comprehensive course curriculum for you to have your own online program. Okay. It's going to give you an overview of your options for deploying that program. It's going to help you create a marketing plan to get the word out about that invitation. And then again, bonus, you don't have to do it, but you'll be taught exactly how to make your own knowledge clone so that if you want a 24/7 customer service bot, you absolutely can. And then I will say those knowledge clones are so cool. Some people are using them like publicly on their website to answer questions and encouraging the people to book a call. So the bot has been trained to, hey, encourage people to go book a call with me. So like if they're answering questions and then they get to the point where anything feels like diagnostic or treatment. Of course, the bots are pre-trained not to do that. Then you can say, oh, it sounds like you would be a perfect fit to meet with, Tiffany or any of you who are on this call. Okay. So I hope that that helps you guys. I feel like summer is over. Okay. And when summer ends, I notice that a lot of the health entrepreneurs in this community, in my audience, certainly the ones that are reaching out to me, when summer is over, they kind of make a shift to get back to work on what are the ways that they can leverage their expertise to make more money, to help more people. And they want to have a plan ready before the new year. Okay. So it's September. You got September, October, November, December. You've got 4 months. Okay. So if you can do this in 3 days, right? We all did this in 3 days together as a community. Okay. So if you can do this in 3 days, that gives you time to like actually build the whole thing. If you want to do recorded videos, some people like to just be live on Zoom and they don't like to record the videos. That's fine. Okay. But if you want to record your videos to people you want to help and you want to store those in a member portal, that's the way I do it. I love it because then I go really deep in the explanations in the videos and I never feel like my time is wasted because instead of repeating myself ad nauseum to one practitioner at a time, like I explain it in depth, knowing that I have time to go in more detail and it's a more, high ROI on my time going into more detail because there's going to be less questions, right? So if you want to get those videos recorded, you have so much time, like to go ahead and get those videos recorded, get your member portal done. And then when you do your Zoom calls, people will have watched those videos and they'll come to your live group program Q&A sessions with much smarter questions, right? So instead of them being like high level, they don't know anything, right? They're going to be like, oh, I watched the video and I'm really unclear about just this one thing. Can you help me figure it out? Okay. So I like it. My preference is always that you guys encapsulate your brilliance in video format. Okay. And preferably in video format that is exactly what an in-depth explanation would be if you had all the time that you needed to explain things to your clients in detail, right? Because we don't always have that time, especially like a 15-minute patient follow-up or something. We don't always have the time to go into the in-depth detail that we want. Well, if you know you're encapsulating it in video that could live on forever, it's worth it for you to share your genius and go deep on certain topics because countless people are going to roll through your course over time. It could be thousands of people whose lives that you're changing all because they saw that video. So you have a little more time. All right. I'm going to pull some questions up on screen here. So let me see. I should have done Nicole's first. Nicole, I'll get to you next. Okay. Is the member portal you're referencing is building the program in Kartra? So when we build protocol to program, we have built that process on 2 different CRMs. Okay. And the CRM is just, however you're going to build your landing pages, send emails, collect email addresses. It should be your affiliate program. It should also take care of your member portal that houses any content you want to deliver to people. So yes, Tiffany, we do have the protocol to program funnel built on Kartra. We also have it built on Go High Level. Those are the 2 that practitioners use the most, but you do not have to build it. Like Tiffany, if you just wanted to do a program and you wanted to teach live on Zoom and you're like, Joy, you know what? I'm not totally sure that this is my end all be all program that I want to build to the world. You could just go ahead and teach those live sessions on Zoom. You don't need any fancy, you don't need any fancy stuff. You literally could create a Google Drive folder and you could save all of your Zoom videos in those folders. And then you could grant access only to members to that folder. And if they wanted to rewatch anything that you talked about, they could go and do that. So Tiffany, you can do this with brass tacks, like no complicated tech. Okay. Now, my favorite way is that you do build it in a CRM because then you're actually building an online ecosystem that can really leverage your expertise in a more scalable way. So when you get to the point of, oh, wow, that worked. So let's say, Tiffany, that you do your program and you have 50 people in there and you're like, man, this is crazy. Joy was right. I love it. I want to do more group programs. I want to do that. if you get to that point and you love it and it goes well, you're probably going to want to send paid traffic to it, and you're probably going to want to get affiliate partners to promote it for you. That's partners, affiliates, partners, doesn't matter, same thing. And then you're probably going to want to make sure your own organic traffic goes to it and you can track it. And when you're using a platform like Kartra or Go High Level, then that is a much easier, like it's a much more sustainable business process for you. I'm going to make sure that you have this. I'll just put this on screen for a second. Kartra is my favorite platform for teams that are under 5 million and you're truly a health entrepreneur, meaning you have a small team. It's either just you and an integrator, maybe you have a little tech help, you have a little social media help. That platform is the simplest, okay? If you have somebody who is really techie and building all your tech funnels, doing your social media for you, like doing all your tracking on how things are converting, in that case, I would say you want to lean into the Go High Level option. Okay. But we do have that funnel built on both Kartra and Go High Level, but we also just have the funnel flowchart. So you could replicate it on any platform you already like. Because Tiffany, I have to stay agnostic on platforms. Like I'll tell you what my favorites are and we do build on them to be like, oh, here's a campaign code or here's a snapshot. Just take this and then go customize it. And they're already ready. Then the whole funnel is done. The member portal is done. It's completely built out. You just change the colors, change the fonts, and put your picture in there. So those are the two platforms that we build that on. Okay. Those are the two platforms we build it on. But truth be told, you can go super, super simple and not build on a platform when you're just testing the waters, and it'll show you how to do that. It'll give you the choice. So there is a lesson about deploying your program, and it explains the difference, why you might want to do it with a fancy, I call it fancy, but I think it's a barrier to entry. Like if you're practicing in a clinic, a physical clinic, the cost of doing that is, well, I need to pay rent for a space, right? Like that's sort of the entry level point of doing business. To me, having a CRM like Kartra, like Go High Level, that's the minimum barrier to entry to having an online scalable health business. So that's how I look at it. All right, let me come back over here to questions. And Tiffany, if that did not answer your question, let me know. But honestly, you can use the full funnel flowchart. It literally shows you what every single page should look like. And then you can build it on whatever you love, whatever platform you love. Okay. I'll keep the coupon code up here while we're answering some questions. All right. Nicole is asking, so if you're a newbie, does the protocol to program start at stage 1 to stage 3? Oh, you mean like, does it show you how to do like your stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, your content construct? Is that what you mean? Oh, you're welcome, Tiffany. Yeah, it's much more efficient to build it with the CRM. So Nicole, I'm going to have you chime in and just comment back so I make sure I know exactly what you're understanding. So if you're a newbie, you can absolutely do protocol to program, because my preference would be like, and I do reach out to FDN and IIN and School of Applied Functional Medicine, and like I get the word out like, hey, when your graduates finish, wouldn't it be nice for them to know that they should cut their chops and get their expertise one-on-one, right? They should totally cut their chops. They should totally have proof that they're good at what they do, right? Before they go trying to lead a whole group through something, okay? But isn't it nice for them to know before they hit the burnout point that, hey, you can take your favorite protocols and you can turn them into group programs or a group detox or a group cleanse, right? Like, wouldn't it be nice for newly graduated medical professionals to know, yeah, you need to take your first 6, 9 months, maybe a year to cut your chops. But once you know what you like doing, you should make sure that you have a burnout proof method. Okay. All right. To answer your question, I'm going to see if I can share a quick peek with you, because there is 3 phases to that work. And I think I can share screen and show it to you. Yes, I totally can. So I'm going to go like this, and then I will share screen. So let me share this with you. And I just want you to kind of see inside here, and I'll show you that there are 3 phases. So you go through 1. That's not the screen I want to share. You guys don't need to see that. So let's remove that one. The screen that I want to share is, so stop screen sharing. And then let's see if I can get you in here. This is it right here. Yeah, right here. Okay. Yeah, now you should be able to see inside this portal. Okay, so the first phase that you do, step one, is your clear messaging. That's using this little bot. There's like a bot right here. I want you to see it because this is just like the bot that you're going to use as your customer service bot. Okay, only if you want to. There's three phases, right? You do your clear messaging. That's where you create your content construct, your model, your visual framework, and then you do your program outline. That is the comprehensive, total, complete curriculum development for your program. And then you do your marketing plan. That's phase one, phase two, and phase three, Carol. That's phase one, phase two, and phase three. Okay. And then there's some bonus content in here. Okay. So, like, if you want to create a knowledge clone, that's the little AI customer service bot, then you totally can. You completely can. If you're afraid of AI, intimidated by AI would say get over that. The time has come. But if you don't want to use it, of course, we don't gonna pressure you to do anything, but you don't have to use it if you don't want to. Okay. And then we walk you through all of your different deploying strategies. Like, do I want to use a CRM? Do I want to do a simple strategy for Zoom? How do I want to get this off the ground? Okay. All right. So I'll pull this back in here and then I'll go stop sharing. Remove. Okay, that good. So hopefully that answers your question. Yes, because you're just starting. Yeah. So Carol, if you're just starting, then you want to make sure that you can do the clear articulation piece, but you might not be ready to turn your favorite protocol into an online program because if you're just getting started, you might not know what your favorite protocol is. So maybe if you just graduated from FDN and you're like, okay, well, I'm going to take on clients, and you might take on your first 20 clients and you might be like, wow, I tended to attract a lot of, I don't know, let's say autoimmune patients. And then I also attracted a lot of SIBO patients. And you're like, I really liked helping my autoimmune people. I didn't have as much fun with SIBO. So I'm going to take my autoimmune protocols and I'm going to organize that into something that's leveraged and prevents me from burnout. Okay. That's what I would say for you. You do have to make sure that you're like, okay, I have confidence in what I do. Okay. I want to make sure. Oh, and you're an ARP with a brick and mortar clinic too. Yeah. So Nicole is saying that okay. So if you have a brick and mortar clinic, then you probably have some experience under your belt. Yes, Nicole. And like, oh, this is something that I would really like to organize a program around. You want to narrow it down. The problem with in a clinic, you guys, this is really important. This is the difference between a physical clinic and being in the online space. When you're in a clinic, proximity has a lot to do with how you get patients, right? They're like, oh man, yeah, there's a functional medicine clinic right down the street from me. I'm going to go check that out, right? So you can get a lot of people coming to you from referrals based on proximity, okay? So somebody they know in their town got good results with you and they're referring people, okay? And then when you move into the online space, you can't be that general, right? Because if it's just about proximity, then yeah, I'm going to go into my local clinic based on somebody referring me there. But when you're in the online space, there's so much noise, right? There's just so much happening in the online space that you literally have to drill down and speak to the specific pain points, symptoms, problems, and outcomes and desires that very specific audiences want. If you stay really, really general, you're not going to convert in the online space. So it's completely different, Nicole, when you're talking about what you're doing in a brick and mortar clinic than what you're doing in the online space. Your online conversations need to be very specific to a particular avatar. Okay. That will help you convert exponentially better. Okay. All right. You are so welcome. You're so welcome. All right, guys. I have gone a little bit over today. I was hoping we could crank this out in an hour, but I want to make sure to get all of your questions answered. That is the QR code for you to get to the protocol to program AI Fast Track. If you use code FastTrack50, you will save 50%. I serve action takers. I don't serve people who lollygag and drag ass and don't get shit done. So that coupon code is good through Friday at midnight. Okay, so it is Tuesday, September 9th. And that coupon code is good through Friday, September 12th. Okay, so it's the 9th today. It's good through the 12th. The reason that I did that is not everybody can join us live. I know a lot of you need to watch it later or watch it at night and make it up later. But that coupon code, FastTrack50, will save you 50% between now and Friday, September 12th, 2025 at midnight. Okay. If you have questions about that, I want to make sure that you have my Instagram handle, just hit me up over at Instagram. I'm Real Joy Houston. Okay. And if you use that QR code, it'll take you directly to my Instagram and just DM me. Let me know what's going on. Okay. Thank you so much for being here with me. I love these live interactive sessions. It's so much more fun than just like recording content and then putting out there and, never having any interplay with you guys. So do me a favor, if you're watching this here on Instagram or if you're watching this on my Facebook, make sure that you subscribe and hit the bell so that you get notified when we put new content out for you. And if you're watching us on another platform, just, follow me and message me and let me know what's going on. We're happy to customize the content based on the current problems in the market for exactly, what will help you, what you need the most. Okay. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being together.